Prince Harry has become the first British royal in 130 years to testify in court in London. It was a big day there. Joining us live now from London, the former BBC legal correspondent and Molten PR senior partner, Clive Coleman. Clive, good to see you. Thanks for your time. Good evening where you are, I should say. So we know how Harry feels about the press. He says he's suffered from press hostility since the day he was born. That was the quote he said today. How much of today's testimony, though, was surprising for you?
Well, it's really interesting because I think that we've had a decade or more of civil litigation, what's known as the phone hacking litigation, breach of privacy litigation against both the Murdoch press and the Mirror Group, which is the case at the moment that Harry's bringing against the Mirror Group newspapers. And really, this is the first one that's fought. All of the others have settled. And it's cost the Murdoch empire, it's estimated about £1 billion, that is, in terms of legal costs and damages. The Mirror Group estimated something like 100 million. So Prince Harry is on a mission. He's on a mission to confront the tabloid press and to clean up the tabloid press. And what we had in court today was a really quite a game of cat and mouse, if you like, because Harry doesn't have a lot of forensic evidence of phone hacking or other illegal activity. But what he does have is the knowledge that the Mirror Group have acknowledged unlawful activity in relation to other cases. And he's basically saying, look, if it happened to everybody else, let's look at these 33 stories. It must have happened here. So the exchanges with the barrister today were effectively the barrister for Mirror Group saying, well, look, we'll take each story individually and we'll look at it. And he's suggesting that each one could have come from legitimate sources.
So is that, I mean, that's bordering on speculation, though, isn't it? And is that enough to prosecute?
Well, he's saying, look, look at the circumstances, look at the number of stories, look at the timing. It's all. Let me give you a couple of examples, real examples. So there was a story in 2003. It was about plans for Prince Harry's 18th birthday party. It was called No Eton Trifles for Harry, published in the Daily Mirror. Well, Harry says that, that was obtained through illegal sources or associated with it. And the barrister said, well, look, you gave an interview to the Press Association at the time on this very subject, and other papers carried it. So are you still maintaining that this was obtained through illegal, unlawful activity? And Harry said, well, look, the timing was very suspicious. And he asserts that the press story that he gave, the story he gave to the Press Association, was an incentive for further illegal activity. So, yeah, you could say there is a problem with a lack of forensic evidence. And part of the Mirror Group's defense is that, look, we took stories that were either in the public domain or we got them through legitimate sources. Another example, one from Australia, actually, 2003. I think you just mentioned it.
Yeah,
Prince Harry was on a gap year. He was working on a cattle ranch in Australia. And the story that the Mirror on was that he was miserable, he was depressed, he was staying indoors because he was worried about the press activity outside. Well, again, it was other papers covered that story, but Prince Harry says no. He has evidence, believes that a private investigator was employed by the Mirror Group to follow him, to track him across Australia. Well, it was put to him by the barrister for Mirror Group newspapers, and no, that wasn't the case. In fact, the story was leaked by one of Harry's own aides.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Sorry, Clive. Yeah, I mean, I was going to highlight that as an example, this trip to Australia. Obviously, it's getting headlines down here today. He called it suffocating, he called it awful, because he was hounded by the paps. But then he also said that he didn't even know that the photos were being taken. So how suffocating could that be? There's a contradiction there. A famous person comes to Australia, they get papped. Yeah. The paps are very good at what they do.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, look, that's one of the lines of attack, isn't it? I mean, in the case you're talking about, it's the Mirror saying, well, look, these pictures were taken by a photographer. You didn't know they were being taken. And the photographer then sold them all over the place. But it wasn't illegal activity on behalf of our group of newspapers. Yeah, it's a tough climb for Prince Harry. But, there is a reservoir, I think, of course, of public sympathy and empathy for him, in part because of the death of his mother, Princess Diana of Wales. And the part that the tabloid press played in that, and that's why this has become, in addition to the intrusions into his own private life and that of his family, this has become a mission for him. He is a man on a mission, and he, unlike all of the others who've settled, has said, look, I'm not going to take the settlement payment, if there was one offered. I want my day in court.
Right. So, I mean, but does he often shoot himself in the foot? I mean, everyone's got sympathy. There's no doubt everyone's got sympathy about Diana. And some of what Harry's had to deal with has been awful, no doubt about that. But then he's blamed the press today for the breakdown in his relationship with William, not mentioning at all the book that he just published, that did a pretty good job of that himself. So, I mean, does he shoot himself in that regard?
Well, look, Prince Harry has publicity, good and bad, and he's a figure that divides opinion. There's no question about that. But what he's asking in this case is he's saying, look at the weight of evidence, look at the number of admissions that if everyone else. A Casey who was involved in this litigation said to me a while ago that, if you were someone in the UK who was in the news between, let's say, 1998 and 2010, it wasn't the case that you might have been hacked. You almost certainly were hacked because it was going on an industrial scale. And we know that. So the Mirror is saying in relation to these 33 cases, actually these ones were obtained completely legitimately. Prince Harry is almost asking the judge to join up the dots here and to say, look, it was going on such a widespread basis. And if you look at the timing, if you look at the payments to private investigators, please join the dots and come to the logical conclusion that these stories were obtained through unlawful activity.
Clive Coleman, former BBC legal correspondent, joining us there. Thank you so much, Clive. Good to chat.